bullpen. I'm Camille Nash, and here we talk everything media, ministry, and the marketplace. Now, if you've been on this journey with me for any length of time, you already know I love whales. I have an affinity for whales, and I'd love to give you a story that where you can kind of hear the violins playing in the background, but it didn't actually come together that way for me. God allowed me to have an experience of my own, and I decided to take that lemon and turn those lemons into lemonade. During the pandemic, which I like to call the plandemic, I saw and experienced a lot of things. I had been in boardrooms, had been in so many social media rooms, courtrooms, and I realized that I got really tired of hearing men attempt to tell women how they should live their lives and women trying to tell men how they should live theirs. So I decided, why not create a space where I could invite powerful men from around the world to come in where you would be able to get a glimpse and hear from other men what it really looks like to live this life as a man that is whole, healthy, alive, and not only surviving, but thriving, which is why we're here. So tonight, I invited a friend of mine. I had to go back into my Rolodex, go way back into my hometown, and wanted to have a conversation with this mighty, mighty man of valor because of the many things that he has done, which you will hear his story, and I can't wait to get into it. So this series, we're going to be talking all about strong relationships, navigating connections, meaningful relationships. What does it really look like to develop a powerful relationship and connection with people? And sometimes those family bonds actually create spaces where we've got to initiate and hold strong and long to boundaries. So without further ado, I want to introduce to some and I want to present to others. I'm going to bring to the platform Minister Eric Graves.
Well, Camille, hello. I've been out backstage having a great time. I'm loving the music, loving the intro.
Yes,
I, I
yes.
love that you call it a plandemic. I thought that's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
A plandemic.
the enemy had something in mind, but I like to call it pandemic because God has a way of taking the plans of the enemy and still making it work for our good. So isn't it wonderful
Absolutely.
for that? And I'm so happy to see you. It's been a
Same.
while.
Yeah.
I'm just really thrilled and grateful to God for your life and for many of the spaces in which you have served, not only in ministry. So I want to first of all take a moment. I know you pretty good. I want to ask, if you wouldn't mind, to share with our audience just a little bit about Eric Graves.
Well, a little bit about Eric Graves. Camille, thank you. First of all, you're amazing. I am a minister of the Lord. God has blessed me tremendously in that facet of being able to help so many people, particularly men. So it's good
Yeah.
that we're talking about this. I'm a life coach as well. I've been a life coach since 2008, professional life coach, been able to help families, parents, men achieve
Hmm.
their most important goals, their God-given goals. In
Yeah.
addition to that, I am a playwright. Been doing plays since 2008, full-length plays. That's becoming strongly my ministry to be a blessing. I call it illustrated sermons. Gives me opportunity to bring God's word to the stage boldly, representing Jesus Christ from the time you enter the lobby to the time you leave out and saying the play was good prayerfully. But so it's a lot. My big passion though is really helping people. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've seen isolation, I've seen abandonment, I've seen rejection, and I've seen relationships crumble because of some things that just could have been prevented or things that could have been noticed sooner. And so I've made it my mission with the help of God and the Holy Spirit to make sure people know their God-given purpose and walk in it with boldness and clarity.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And you were definitely one of the first people I thought about when we were talking about the planning of our series. And more so, I think the last time you and I talked, I said when I am ready to begin the show, I definitely want you on because of all of the work that you've done with families, beginning with your own, and of course,
Yeah.
with a concentrated focus on men. So, what
Yes.
I want to ask or kind of dig into a little bit when it comes to this area where you're serving, I love what you call the illustrated sermons. I may have to take that. I'm going to definitely use it. I'll give you credit for about two times at
Two, that's
that.
it. Just two. You only get two. That's right.
Father, Son. After that, the Holy Spirit is mine.
I
But I
see.
absolutely love that. So tell us a little bit about how you found this place where you serve, or how it may have found you. Then I want to talk a little bit about your family dynamics.
Okay, I might speak to that a little bit in this as well, because how
Okay.
I found this place was from a family dynamic spot. It involves my childhood and it involves my failed marriage. Right, I was
Okay.
married. Yeah, in those both of those spaces, I found myself alone. I found
Mm,
myself trying to figure it out. Found myself shrinking back as a man, not
mm,
stepping up in places where I should have stepped up.
mhm.
I found myself failing to communicate. This is my
Wow.
own responsibility, right? I could
Yeah.
blame so many other things, but if I'm looking at myself, there were literal places where I failed to communicate my needs, and many times I felt overlooked. Not to mention what other people were doing to contribute to that. So and there was some insecurity there when it came to my decisions. And so those things started to compile itself. And I said, Lord, there's got to be a better way. I need help. And as I sought the Lord, He became the Abba. He became Father to me when I didn't know a Father. He became my guide when I didn't have a guide. He became my mentor when I was begging Him to give me a mentor. He said, I'm gonna work with you. I'm gonna show you who you are in me, and then you're gonna be able to go from there. So that's how I got here. That's the short version of it for now. But yeah,
I absolutely love that. It sounds like you certainly had a dip of humility there, because
absolutely.
none
Yeah.
of us, male or female, and you can speak more so to the men. That's why I'm bringing you men on, because you all can talk
Yeah.
about what it really means and what it looks like to be a man. But when you think about how you were on this road or this journey of discovery, and how God illuminated Himself to you to show you this path, when it comes to your family and the family dynamics, what do you believe really constitutes a healthy family dynamic? And why are strong family bonds so important to us?
Definitely knowing your role, right? Knowing who you are in Christ. We don't want to overemphasize Christ, but He is the secret sauce to a great family dynamic. You
Yeah.
get a lot of times when we enter the family dynamic, we may not have had the best examples
Hmm.
coming up. So when we get into these dynamics, we're kind of lopsided. We're kind of handicapped when we get into that. That was the case for me. I didn't see the father in the home. I didn't understand that role.
Mm,
And I didn't have male role models. So I didn't understand. I didn't know how to, when I first had my son, I was very nervous. He's my youngest. When I
yeah.
had my daughter, I was very excited. I was married. I just knew I wanted my kids in marriage. So when I had my daughter, I said, oh, I have a daughter. I'll just treat her like a lady, show her respect, and show her how a man treats a woman. Right. Because I
Yeah.
always consider myself a gentleman. But when I
Of
had my
course.
son, though, 2 years later, I was very nervous. I was literally afraid because I didn't know what to teach him. I said,
Mm,
I don't know what to teach. I said, one day this young man is going to grow up to become a full grown man of his own. And I
mhm.
don't know anything. I don't know how to fish. I don't know how to play basketball. I don't know how to
Yeah.
play golf. I don't know how to fix cars. Whatever men do,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. And so going into that dynamic as a father, as a husband, and I didn't see anybody with successful marriages. So I
Mm,
think the family relationship comes with, like you said, the humility of getting before God and say, well, Lord, and literally believing that God's going to show you. Because I can say that now, but at the time, I thought I believed that God was going to show me. But there was some doubt there. I didn't really know if God was really speaking to my situation. So
yeah.
once the family dynamic was formed, though, the bond comes from knowing who you are. I know it's a part that we tend to skip, but what's your role in this? What has God called you to be? If you're the man, it's not just so much the breadwinner, the basics. It's you being a protector and a provider and
Mhm.
just being present, right? Being consistent as a man. Those are key. And then being a woman supporting your man and not criticizing him at every turn. And then you two partnering together if you have children and saying, we're going to lead the children on the vision of this house. Not,
Mm.
I mean, we're gonna do it together and not divide it. And let the kids see that example and those role models. No matter what their life is like, let them still see what y'all are trying to represent and the foundation that you're laying.
Well, I think that's really powerful right there. We certainly can't skate past the fact, past the criticism part. I mean, I'm a woman, and I know what that's like, and having maybe seen some toxic or poor examples growing up of women belittling or demeaning men, and there's a lot of that still goes on. I want to kind of talk about. You also said something along the lines of like you didn't have it growing up. So sometimes I believe in relationships, we put a lot of pressure on each other to be something that we've never seen.
Yeah,
And more often than not, we will choose somebody, whether it's a celebrity or a pastor or someone whose life looks like it's all together, but every life, every relationship has some spots. So
absolutely.
let me ask you, what did you do? Because you had to do something definitive to go back and
Yeah,
say, what must I do to what must I do to learn more about what a healthy life looks like as a man and as a father?
that's good. Camille, the show is great. I want to just be peeking in on your future episodes. You're amazing. And yeah, and my sister for real. Um,
Oh,
Interesting enough, you're here at the School of Hard Knocks. And
yep.
so we're eh, okay, it's not the traditional answer, so I give that disclaimer now.
Mm,
Where originally came from, what was really going to lead to my change and my redirecting was my stepfather growing up.
mm,
He has we have there's 8 of us total. I'm the oldest. The other 7 siblings are his children. His children. And when we grew up, he was an alcoholic. And so
mm,
when he drunk, he hated me. And I mean, hated. I couldn't eat his food. I couldn't drink. I mean, I couldn't eat his food. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't even, it was just a lot. Right. And so he would kick me out the house, and he kept doing this. He kept doing this from 6 to 16. It was just some rough years of my life. And so not only am I not seeing a male role model, but the male role model that I do see is just belittling me and talking about me and casting
mm,
me out and rejecting me. So I'm feeling this. I mean, I'm absorbing all of this as a young man. I'm becoming a teenager, not knowing that I have these issues. I have these issues, going through this journey, and still feeling unsure of myself. But then one day around my sophomore year of high school, I was just fed up. I was just tired. I was kind of sad. I had just come into church, and the reason I got saved was the pastor was preaching. I don't remember his message, but he said God loves you, and I remember thinking, I need somebody to love me. And I
mm.
said, God, if you're going to be that one, I don't want to play this game. If you're going to be this invisible deity in the sky, then let's just end this right here. Like, if I pray, I need you to help me. And so the thing was, I met God first, and then I met Christians. And then I was so disappointed. But anyway, my story, another day. I met God, and I went to church. I started seeing Christians. I was like, uh, wait a minute, wait a minute, the Bible. But so that journey would begin. And so what would happen is God would start showing me, and I'm answering the second part of what the dynamics, what really changed it was I didn't want to be like my stepfather. I was so afraid of being like him. That's why I didn't drink. I don't even drink now because of that. I probably should be an alcoholic because when I met my biological father, he was an alcoholic too. So that probably was my path, but God had a different plan. But seeing so much ugly in my stepfather with the drinking, all I knew when I was about my sophomore year to senior year is I just didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to
Yeah.
do, I mean, not anymore. I didn't want to live that way. Now, people
Mhm.
say right from wrong. I don't know if I knew right from wrong or not. All I knew was I wanted to do something different. I said, okay, he drinks, he puts kids out on the street, he doesn't feed them. I don't want to do that. So that began the path. And now I'm meeting the Lord. And as I'm meeting the Lord in my mind, I'm like, well, Lord, I just want to do something different. I want to do something different. So God would order my steps after that. And the next big thing that would happen is I would get connected with a church that would have in the church you and I are connected to, and they would have
Mhm.
amazing classes. And one of the
Yeah.
classes they would have was grief recovery. And being a man, I never really thought it was important for me to take any emotional based classes, zero. But
Mhm.
it was the game changer for me. Taking the
Yeah.
grief recovery, and then after that, so many more emotional based classes, and some of them I was the only man. So guys, if you're listening, I encourage you first of all, don't eat some humble pie, and take
Yeah.
some emotional classes to get your emotions in check. Because I thought the only emotion was anger. That was the only emotion I thought. If I was sad, it was anger. If I was disappointed, it was anger. But taking grief recovery and so many others, the beta Satan and all these other classes, whoa, it started to help me see myself and say, Eric, wait a minute. You have to do better, not only externally but internally too. You have some stuff going on that you need to release. And so when I finally get into my relationship, my marriage, my first marriage, I'm really excited to try what I didn't see, to try something new, to try something different, to try something opposite. This is how men treated women. Well, let me see if I can do that. To this day, I'm remarried. To this day, I still try to do opposite of what men do to women, just on purpose. I date my wife. I buy her flowers on random days. I just don't pick the holidays because guys keep buying women stuff on Valentine's only. And I'm like, no, let me switch it up. And I was telling one of my friends recently, I said, I'm treating not in the negative, but I'm treating my marriage like work. Every day I clock in, every day, because most guys don't. So
Ooh,
that's a
that's so
lot,
good.
but
Oh no, that's a lot. That is a lot, and it's all good. It's all relative. So I want to dig into a couple things you said. My
okay,
goodness, I'm loving that. You clocking in every day. I need to write that
every
one down.
day.
Clock in every day. That
Every day, we clock it, and men can relate to that because they go to work, right? They're about their money, they're about their grind, they're about their focus, but they put so much energy and so much time into their jobs. But
yeah,
their marriage needs the same kind of same level. The way you
yeah,
think about your job is the same way you need to be thinking about your marriage. And
yeah.
the challenge is men clock out of their marriage. They stop listening, they stop talking, they stop communicating. And I'm just like, no, I want to do something different than that. No.
Yeah, yeah. That is powerful. I'm a huge proponent of grief recovery, and I think I took it twice. It was a very tough journey.
It
Probably,
was. It was
I
hard.
like the experience. I like to say because I've done so much more emotionally based or emotionally charged courses and certifications since then. That was the
Yeah.
launching pad. I
Me
say
too.
it this way.
Same.
I took a lot of classes. I went through group therapy, individual
Yep.
one-on-one therapy, did all those things. But that grief recovery course with that
Yeah.
within that ministry, that experience, it was life changing. It
It
really,
was.
really changed my life in more ways
Me
than
too.
one. And but what's really important or pivotal about it, Eric, is that a lot of men, I know now more men are embracing therapy and understanding the importance
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
What was
They
the
are.
conversation that you had with yourself to say, you know what, I'm going to lean in, I'm going to really lean into this and embrace this grief recovery, even though this is the journey of my life.
It
Uh,
was. And
I
like
got to
you,
23. It's like, oh, wait a minute, do I want to continue
yeah.
this? So what you think?
And it's that's I don't know. Well, it was, I just sensed that I wanted something different, and I knew I was hurting. I just didn't know how I was hurting. And
Yeah,
grief recovery came, and you're right. It was hard. It's hard coming face to face with some things, and it's so well put together that by the time you get through it, you're going to be glad you did. Tears and all, tissue and all, right? Boxes near you.
love you.
So I go into grief recovery because I'm like, I really want to be a whole person, right? And I think as men, sometimes we're the work and we're this compartmentalized thing, but we're really still just like you ladies, we're a whole being, right? We have this emotional side. And yes, society has taught us not to express that emotion, don't cry, all of those things that we still, but men are stepping up and getting more, embracing more of that. But back then it was still that talk, right? It was still that talk. And I just wanted wholeness. I was okay physically. I was getting through some things. I was okay to the best of my ability mentally, but I just kept feeling like there was a void. I was hurt. And what grief recovery did that shocked me, it knocked my socks back. I went into grief recovery because don't tell God what he gonna do, right? You heard it before. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. So I'm going into grief recovery like, well, Lord, I'm going to talk about my stepfather and we're going to get to the bottom of this. No, I get into grief recovery week 3 or week 4, the way it's formatted is shifted for me, and it became about my mother. And up until
Mm,
then, I had never really thought about that. My mother, I thought, well, as a child, you never disrespect your mother, you just love your mother. But what grief recovery showed me was, hey, mom, you didn't protect me. Hey, mom, there was some weakness in some of this. Not that she was not, my mother loved her to death, but it's not that she dropped the ball in parenting, but there's things that could have been done better. And here I am, yes, mad at my stepfather, and rightfully so. But mom, my first love, and so that right there changed because I didn't realize up until that point either. I was dating or married that that was the reason I was treating women the way I was treating women. Yes, I love my mother, but I didn't trust women. I didn't trust them. So when I was in these
Well,
relationships, I didn't trust. I'm like, no, she full of it. She out there is some guy. But that came from my past. So grief recovery helped me see that. And once I saw that light, not only did it help my relationship with my mother, but it helped me start shifting to how I wanted to be in my family dynamic and in my relationships in general with females. So I think
so
that's
that's
an
so
energy.
powerful. That's so powerful because, mother wounds are real. And
Yeah.
more often than not, we hear a lot of conversation for us as women with our mother wounds, but there's a lot of mother wounds that happen. I've talked to so many men over the last maybe 18 months or so, and certainly over the last several years, doing a number of different type of projects in media. But even with this show, the conversations that I've had in uncovering and learning so much about the mother wound or the family dynamics for mother and son. When you realize during grief recovery, as these layers are being peeled back, what is one of the first things that you can recall, or one of the first steps that you took in terms of the relationship with your mom? Like, how did you begin to lean into that with her, and or what did that conversation look like if you had one with her?
Well, we didn't, I it started with that letter you write, right? You write this crazy letter, and I
The
yeah,
grief
grief recovery
recovery.
letter, and I wrote that thing too. I wrote that thing. I wrote that thing like never before. It hurt my feelings. I wrote it so bad, it was so good, and so I don't remember. You can refresh my memory. I don't think you're supposed to give it to the person, and so I did. I ended up giving it to my mother. Yeah, you're not supposed to. I did. Well, to this day, my mother's going on to heaven now, but to this day, she never brought up that note, that letter, ever. And so, to your question, so not knowing what she thought, and then I was too scared after that to ask her about it. I said, "Oh, oops, that was a mistake." I probably after the fact, I was like, "Ooh, I probably should have gave that to mom." But so I never brought it back up. But a couple things happened. Number one, what it did though, once I put it all out there, we you want God to really work on your situation. You really want God to work on your family, work on you. Put it all out there. Put it all out there. Like, don't you keep some things, some of the trauma and some of the pain close to the vest, but give that to the Lord. So I put it all out there through that letter, and it was nothing left to be upset about. There was nothing left to say. I said everything the way I wanted to say it. It was respectful, but I said it. And once that was released, I had this new affinity for my mother. The love was there like I never before. I'd always loved her, but it was increased, and so it was kind of this real forgiveness, like, mom, you did the best you could, you know what I'm saying, you did your best you could. I just wanted to put it out there that I didn't think that was cool, and it probably wasn't, but you know what, you're still a beautiful woman. You still raised 8 kids pretty much by yourself. You know what? Bravo to you. Bravo to you. I
Wow.
thought you was a weak woman, but you guess what? You really were. You're really strong. You got through some stuff, and then, mom, guess what? I know I was dealing with what I was dealing with because of your choices and decisions, but you were dealing with it even greater than me, and you were doing the best you could with me. And so all of that freedom and forgiveness, that forgiveness led to a freedom that gave me and my mother a great relationship. My mother would lose her eyesight, and this is when I still was in Cleveland, in Ohio, and she would call me, and she's like, "Son, I want to go see a movie." I'm like, "Go see a movie? You blind, right?" But so I took her to the movie, and we went to see particular one memory. Went to see James Brown. That was her boy. She loved her some James Brown, and so I didn't know James Brown like that, just enough. But anyway, Chadwick played him, and so we're in the theater, and my mother cannot see the screen, and I'm just looking at her, and I'm looking at the screen, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, what is she seeing here? Because she really wanted to come to this movie. So what I did was I wanted to experience it the way my mother did. And so I closed my eyes. And for the first time ever, I watched the movie with my eyes closed. Not long, but long enough to really say, whoa, the way my imagination was picking up on the words. I was trying to see what my mother saw. I think that all came from that letter. It all came from just giving, forgiveness led to the freedom to say, all right, mom, we can have our relationship the way we have it, and I can still learn. So I wasn't holding grudges. It became something very beautiful, very beautiful. Um, yeah, yeah, that was the big thing there. I want to make sure I don't want to get too far off the question, but I get all
No,
worked up. But
no, it's marvelous because as I'm thinking about it, my goodness, you said so much there that the freedom, the forgiveness led to freedom.
yeah,
And to
yeah,
imagine, I'm just trying to walk with you as I'm visualizing you are in the movie theater and you close your eyes. My goodness, all these years I've known you, I don't think I knew that your mom was didn't have her eyesight or that she was vision impaired. Where were you in the birth order? Just curious.
I'm the oldest out of eight.
You're the oldest, okay, of
I'm the
eight.
oldest.
My
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
So that already brings a level of weight with it,
yeah.
as it in itself. That brings a level of weight. And so as you are experiencing this with your parents, with your mom and dad, so now let's look at what does that do for you when it comes to parenting? Because now you have already made a decision definitively to learn what can I do or how should this look. What was the experience like for you when it was time to model the behavior once you had children of your own?
First word that comes to mind was exciting because I knew I was doing something different, right? I knew I wasn't following social norms. I wasn't copying off anybody's paper. I didn't know what a man should be, I didn't know what a man should be doing. So all I knew is that I wanted to be there for my kids. I didn't see the men present in my life. And my biological father, I'm the only one that has a separate father. But when I met him later in life, he didn't want to have anything to do with me even then. But I have kids at this point when I meet him. So I was excited because I felt like for my children that they were going to get an opportunity to experience something that I never experienced, and it was going to be, and not unbeknownst to me, but to some degree, it was going to be something that we both would get to experience together. I would get to be a father with children, and they would get to be children that have a father. And whoa, what would that be like? What would it feel like for them to know that their dad showed up, or what would it feel like to know that I have a younger one looking up to me? So it was exciting. I wasn't really afraid. I mean, my son, I was, but once we started figuring out parenting, um, I was excited to show them the world and share some of the things that I had learned and some of uh, the things that that the Lord has showed me. I even wrote. I'm older now, but back in the day, I was a frustrated rapper. And so, so when my daughter was born, I wrote a rap for her,
Oh,
and it was, yeah, and I mean, and it was a rap, and it was called Daddy's Little Girl, and it was speaking to the question you're asking about. Hey, here's what I want for you as a father. You know, uh, and can I say a little bit of it? I think I still remember, or is it just time to let
uh-oh,
me
you
know?
remember it? You remember it?
No,
Let's hear it.
no,
Let's hear it.
I'm not gonna rap. It's 23. It's about 26 years old, but I still remember it. It's in my heart. It's 26 years old. Y'all can judge me, people. Your audience can judge me. It's okay. But it's called Daddy's Little Girl, and I'm not gonna rap it, but I'm gonna say it like a poem and a little fast. But it says, "Well, well, well, welcome to the world. What do we have here? Daddy's little girl, looking just as cute as you can be, and just as pretty as your mother. I see. Now I'm gonna try to keep it simple without going into depth. Your journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step, and my heart goes out to you for all the things that you have to go through, and my hopes as you travel from place to place, and my prayers for all the things that you have to face. Now, life ain't never been easy. It's something you got to work at, believe me. But never be ashamed to ask for help in areas you need help with. You got to play the game with the cards you've been dealt with. So keep your head on tight, your goals in sight, and fight the good fight, and you're going to be all right. And so that's kind of that. That's that's one part of it. And it was just it was inspired by my journey of saying, and then there's a second part. You got me pumped up now, Camille. I'm going to do the second part. It's short. It's short. I said, okay, always walk and talk and even being like a lady and never be shady. And don't be such a rush to have a baby. There's so many circumstances can't explain it. There's also opportunities for you to obtain it. Learn to share, invest, and save your money and never turn your nose down on anybody, honey. Try to stay positive in all you say and do and learn to love God because he first loved you. Hold on to his unchanging hand and you can't lose and let your father be the example for the man that you choose. I chose to give you life, but I can't live your life for you. I can teach you right from wrong, but I can't make things right for you. I can teach you how to swim in the lake of the big fish. I can show you how to share, but can make you unselfish. I can show you how to love, but can make you a loving person. I can tell you about the pain, but I can't stop the hurting. So whatever you do, remember, boo, it's all up to you, but be careful because it's a cold, cruel world. but you gonna be all right because you were daddy's girl. And so that was my motivation song. that was my that was
I
my
love that. I love that. It's called it because it's called a daddy's girl.
yeah, daddy's little girl. Yeah, daddy's little
Daddy's
girl.
little girl. So
Mhm.
let's just talk about that for a moment. You wrote those words. I know you said 26, almost 30 years ago.
Yes, yes.
When you wrote those words, you wrote those words so that they would be somewhat of a landscape or foundation for
Right.
how you were raising her.
Yes.
So as you're raising her, and you now set this barometer or this guide, if you will, in conjunction with God's word, because
Yes.
you're mirroring these things side by side. And now I remember you actually raised your children in the church, and you also homeschooled them. So before we talk
Yes.
about the homeschooling journey, as you wrote these words for her, first of all, let me ask you: did you give them to her? Does she still
She
have
does.
them?
She knows it by heart to this day. She knows that
No.
we she sings, so sometimes we just play around and get she do a little hook for me. But yeah, she knows it to this day, and yeah, yeah, so she
So
could
your
quote it.
inspiration to write that was more so a reminder for you?
Yeah, to your point, it was more like a reminder and a blueprint, right? A blueprint to the father I wanted to be in her life, and it pertained to my son too. But she was the girl first, and yeah, I
Yes.
wanted to, I want to walk, trust God. I can show you these things, and it was a reminder, like I can show you how to love, but I can't make you a loving person. It showed my
Yeah.
limits. It showed who I was going to be and how I was going to be under Christ, leading my child. Yeah, I'm gonna show you how to love, little girl, but I can't make you a loving person. Yeah, I can tell you about the pain, but I can't stop the hurting. So it was just kind of reminders for me too to say, all right, Eric, you're gonna do the best you can as a father. You're gonna do the best you can.
So let me ask, how did you make the leap to with your children decide to train them and teach them and homeschool them? Because that's not an easy feat. I know that you all both did that together, but I know that you were kind of the catalyst in that. What was that conversion like, or what encouraged you to make that decision?
Well, your child is unique, and you love them the way you love them. When my children were little, they were crybabies. They cried about everything. They did not stop crying. They cried morning, noon, day. Maybe it was just me. Huh. My wife would work at night, and I would work during the day. And at night, yeah, they would just cry. And so, as they were maturing up from the baby to 2 years old, crying was, just it was pretty annoying. It was annoying, and babysitters and people would feel some kind of way. Anyway, that led to looking at school now. They're getting closer to getting ready for school. They're approaching this 5-year mark. And at that time, it was a lot of stuff in the media and news about, labeling children, the labels that they had. And it was just like, well, we don't want you to be labeled. We want you to have a fair chance. My kids are smart, so it's nothing like that. But I didn't want them to come into a world of being labeled, and partly because I have been labeled so much. my stepfather, my father, even my grandmother labeled me, right? And so the people that were close to me labeled me, and they weren't very positive labels. And so I said, well, I want my children to have a fair opportunity to just be who they're going to be. And so homeschooling it was popular, but not as popular now as it is now. There's more resources and a lot more available. Back then you had to, partner with a school and have a teacher come out. So they do it so much better and good. And so we started the journey and partnered with some good friends of mine at the time, the Goggins. The Goggins were the godparents, and they with us together, we did it. I had my specialty subjects, math and art and health. But and the Goggins had theirs, the other ones. So the ones
Yeah, I
and
always marveled at that. I thought that was phenomenal because I
it was
know
a
it's not
blessing.
something that's easy. My goodness, what a blessing. With you being the eldest sibling and deciding to walk a different path because of how God had downloaded things in you, what was that like for your sibling relationships? Did it create any additional rivalries? Or let's talk about how important sibling relationships are when you're trying to raise children with a different landscape.
Yeah, they're I
Did
love
they
them all.
judge you? Did they judge you?
You know what they're very quiet people. All of them. They are real quiet.
No
So
way.
let's start with that. They are really, they got good hearts. All of them have good. They are. You know, you can tell I'm probably the loud one of the group. I am, but they are really. I got a brother here in Arizona with me now. He came over a couple weeks ago. I hadn't seen him in a while. I was excited to see him. He literally took a nap, and so I'm looking, and I got tired too. So I said, "Well, let's take a nap. I guess that's our connection." But I'm so glad he came over. But we had a big brother, little brother nap, I guess. They are, honestly, I don't know the answer to that because they are quiet. The part where you express emotions, and we went through a lot as when we were younger from their dad, my stepfather, that we never talked about that. And that's one of the challenges too, and another topic for another day. Maybe you'll get another guest for that. Talking about health issues, communicating that, and because that was not something or trauma in your. Everybody kept everything
Well,
hush
let's
hush.
talk about
So
it. Well, let's talk about it. I mean, because it's
okay,
important. It's a part of the family dynamics.
yeah, because I mean I'm gonna come back to the siblings, but and they actually tie into what I'm going to say. So about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, colon cancer, and God has now since put me and put me in remission on that. Yeah, thank y'all. Pray God is able, and He's done. Same year I got cancer is the same year that I was delivered from it. He is able. Okay. And so in that process, when I was going to the doctor, they kept asking, "Hey, did your mother experience this? Did your dad have this?" And I was sitting there like, I I don't know. Nobody from that generation ever talked about their problems. So I really didn't know what their ailments and their issues were. Conversely, the personalities of my brother and sister, which is amazing. They're beautiful people. If you know my brothers and sisters, you know you've got great people in your life. They're very quiet. And so a lot of the emotions and of dealing with the trauma or dealing with their big brother, I don't know those things. They're still a secret to this day of what they feel and what they experience. Since our mother's passing, I still don't know how they're grieving her. Not that they owe me that explanation. It's just, it's not visible. It's not present. I see them bleeding out sideways in some places, but I still don't know the magnitude of, hey, what are you dealing with right now? Where are you with this? And so when it came to the siblings, our journey together has been really quiet. Um, I don't know. We have a good relationship. I call any one of them now, and we'll talk. But that's to the extent of it. And from what I can tell, they're doing really beautiful things and wonderful things, and I just continue to pray. But now when we get together, we're a bunch of knuckleheads. When you have family that size, you're either musicians or comedians. Okay. The Jackson Fives, they all sang and danced. The Wayne brothers, they all told jokes. We're jokesters. We're all jokesters. So when we're together, and it's been a long time since we've been together, but when we're together, oh yeah, it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be a good time with comedy and
It
some jokes.
definitely sounds like it. I want to switch gears a little bit because you brought up cancer, and that was definitely one of the things I wanted to talk about because you're an overcomer. I mean, you beat cancer,
Praise
and God,
God. Praise
with
God.
God's help, with God's unmerited favor, with His lifting, you are still standing, and that was not an easy journey for you.
No.
So, what I want to talk about, and you found love in the midst of it all.
Woo-hoo, I
So,
found love.
I want to talk about that when we look at how families navigate transition and change. I mean, you went through a major change. Cancer is not easy. I have a friend right now who just found out literally yesterday she had blood cancer, and
Oh, I'm
not
sorry.
easy. And
Yeah.
so, but we know God is the healer, right? We believe it. And now you got to walk this thing out. It's one thing to quote scriptures, but something altogether to walk them out, to live it. And
Exactly.
so when you look at the transition, you had this was a major transition. You relocated over 2,000 miles, whoop, whoop, just like I did.
Yeah.
Started
Love
your life
it.
over,
Yes.
but you also had major transition through all of this. What did the transition look like for you once you received that diagnosis? What was your first step?
Um, First step was to cry.
Yeah,
I once I
real.
got the diagnosis, yeah. Once I got the diagnosis, I was in the hospital 10 days. On day 4, they came to me. I went in because I had passed out, and I never passed out before. So they said when I was in emergency, they kept me for 6 hours, and they said if you let us run some more tests, we can see what else is going on. I said okay. So 24 hours though, they wanted to keep me for 24. It turned into 10 days. On day number 4, they came to me and said, Mr. Graves, we don't know why you passed out, and I haven't passed out since. But that was God's way of getting me there. But we did find cancer, and we have you're at stage 3, and we see something in your lungs. If we do the once we do the biopsy, if it's connected to your colon, you're at stage 4. But if it's not, you have lung cancer too. And I don't smoke. So day 5 or day 6, whatever, the processing was happening. I'm still in the hospital. I'm trying to what mama had just died the year before. So I'm like, huh? So the first step was to cry. I cried for 6 hours straight. Doctors would come in my room. Hey, are you okay? I was like, no, I'm not okay. But that's through the work I did in the past, right? I gave myself permission to cry. I'm not okay. Doctors would back out like, okay. Well, others would come in. Are you? No, I'm not okay. So I cried literally for 6 hours, and I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. That wasn't my goal. I was really just hurt. And tears are a beautiful thing because it's the overflow, right? From everything you're holding on to. I'm still dealing with mama. Here I am now in the hospital, and I got this diagnosis. So I cried for 6 hours. And so after the 6 hours of crying, I don't know if you cry so long where you're still crying, but there's no more tears. I still was crying, but I had no more water. And so after that, Camille, there was just this load lifted. I used the word freedom, like, oh, all right, what's next, right? So it became some clarity of, all right, what's next? Like, am I gonna die today? No? Okay. So what do I need to do? All right, Eric, well, you need to do this chemo, you need to do this. And then after that, it was talking to God about it. It was keeping a positive attitude because I was scared not to have a positive attitude. I'm telling people recently, I say, you do know the kingdom is voice activated, right? The things you bring into you have been brought to you because of your voice, because of things that you say. And people want to talk about all the blessings, but some of that other stuff came because you spoke it too. But nobody want to talk about that part, right?
Oh
He said, I
no,
said
oh
before.
no, that's real. That's very real. It comes with it's like the
Yep.
hamburger and the fries. That's a part
Yeah,
of it.
it's a combo, right? He says, yeah. So he said, I said before you life or death, choose life. So if life is a choice, then death must be an option. And some people picking death, but that's a whole nother story. So I kept picking life. I was scared. I was like, Lord, I'm healed. Lord, you're able. And so after that, in the natural, I followed the regimen of my oncologist. He the way I was talking to him, even when I was in the emergency, and the way I was talking to my oncologist was this. I said, hey, listen, I'm here to get well. I'm not here because I'm sick. At any time that changes, discharge me. Discharge me. I need you because I needed them to understand. I need you to treat me like I'm trying to get better. Don't treat me like I'm about to die. And I feel like that comment and those prayers changed the game, Camille. It changed it with my emergency doctor because I told her first. Her name was Jennifer. I remember. I said, Jennifer, come here, come here, come here. She like, who is this guy? I said, Jennifer, listen, this is the first day in emergency. I'm like, look, I need you to treat me like I'm trying to get well, not like I'm about to die. If anytime this changes, go ahead and discharge me. I'm not here. I'm not here for you because it's a different operation when you think I'm about to die. And so my oncologist, when I met him, it was a similar thing. I was like, listen, hey, let me introduce myself. I'm a child of God. We gonna get through this. So I need you to treat me like I'm trying to get well. And I think that changed it because he became he became my biggest support through this process. And then the nurses became my strangers. I mean, strangers became my family. And they started walking me through, and I would be in the back getting chemo in my veins and like everybody else, but the nurses would be drawn over to me and they would just start speaking life into me. And one lady, she said, I'm sorry, but it's something about you. Are you a Christian? I said, yes, I am. Me and Jesus, real cool. She like, I felt it. She's like, do you mind if I pray with you? And I'm like, yeah, so God was all present in all this. And then she said, hey, you see, she asked me about my story and told a little bit about it. She said, have you considered therapy for cancer? I'm like, therapy for cancer? I didn't even know you would do that for that. I was like, but I'm big on therapy and emotional work now. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I haven't considered it, but I'm interested. She's like, I got a guy. He's so great, blah, 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 blah. And so I called the gentleman And he was amazing. I didn't know I needed therapy for cancer, but he was. He said two things that changed my life. He said, first thing he said when he first met me, he said, Eric, first of all, I want you to know that you are not your cancer. I like, oh, because I was starting to feel like I was the diagnosis. He said, no, you are Eric, you have cancer. And the second thing is you don't owe anybody an explanation for what's going on with you because you're still figuring it out yourself. This was God moving through all of this. And then my surgeon was one of the best in one of, had a high ranking in Arizona. I didn't pick him, God picked him, right? And so when we were talking, I was talking like he was the best. I knew his pedigree, but it wasn't really about his pedigree. It's about, like, let me tell you who I am. Now that you're about to go operate, let's make sure we have an understanding, right? And it wasn't this verbal boldness that I'm saying right now, but it was a presence to me that I saw God move all the way through that process. Even nurses, after they were done with their rounds on my floor, would come and just sit in my room. And I would ask him, I said, you need to do my blood pressure? You need to, nah, I just want to sit next to you. And it was the peace of God. It was just, so God was doing this thing, and all of those little things were adding up and saying, God was saying, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. I didn't know that the same year, because that was March of 2022, that November, I didn't know I would be cancer free, but God knew. And it was the faith, it was the prayers, it was the following the oncologist and the natural. It was just really keeping it positive and really accepting everything that was coming my way, from therapy to a nurse sitting by my bedside. So,
What
you're
a
on mute. Okay.
testimony. My goodness, you were sent the right type of help, the right person at the right time.
At the
My
right
goodness,
time,
with the
praise
right
God.
message. That part is really
With the
important.
right,
The right message
that part,
with
Jesus.
the
Yeah.
right message.
Yes.
So I want to talk about how you found love again. I would be remiss not to talk about your new love. I want to
You
know
making me blush,
where
Camille.
you were, like where you were in your heart space, because you just have you now relocated. And let's talk about this love story. I need the
Camille,
people to know,
you
especially
are
somebody
this
their time is
this
over.
is this is therapy. Oh my goodness. I didn't know you was gonna be my doctor today. But
Tell
okay.
everybody it goes down in the bullpen. That's what
Gotcha.
we
I love it. I
all
love it. I love you. I love what you're doing. Praise God for this. But yeah, I appreciate that. I think this is good for men to hear. I'm glad you target men, or you having men do this bullpen. Men, y'all need to hear this stuff. Okay, this is a part of it. This is why I coach men and do it. But I think I was married 24 years, and it didn't go well. Now, you can judge me. It was supposed to last forever, and it didn't. So after 24 years, I stayed in my marriage because of my children. I wanted to make sure that they knew they had a father. But once they got grown, I made the decision that I was going to just dissolve my marriage, and that was one that was very costly decision for me, financially, mentally, emotionally, everything that comes with it. But the journey would go on, right? Life would go on, and God doesn't give up on us. So I was going through my journey, and technically, because it was such a fresh move of being divorced, I wasn't going to get married again. Maybe down the line, but so I'm in Cleveland, and my aunt, she moves around a lot. So she moved to Arizona. And she said, nephew, you need to come on out and see me. You need to come see me. And I said, well, Auntie, you in Arizona. You know how far that is from Ohio? Look at the map. But I would visit her wherever she went. And so I said, okay, Auntie, I'll come out there. So my cousin lives out here, and I hadn't seen him in over a decade. So once he found out I was coming, he started sending me these videos of him by the pool with all these women, like he was Tupac or something. And look, Eric, say hi, Eric. Hi, Eric. I'm like, what is he doing? Right. But anyway, one girl was on there that just kind of caught my attention. He sent me 3 different videos with these girls, but one girl caught. So when I came to Arizona, I saw my aunt and I saw my cousin. And so when I saw my cousin after a decade, how you doing, cuz? We caught up with stuff. I said, hey, there was one girl on your video that I wouldn't mind meeting her. To me, it was very innocent. I didn't have any plans. He said, oh, you mean Ronica? And I'm like, well, I don't know her name. She just looks like this, blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, yeah, Ronica. Now, my cousin has a hiking group out here in Arizona. So she's part of his hiking group, but I didn't know that. And so I had jet lag and went to sleep. And when I woke up, he said, oh, yeah, by the way, she's on her way over here. I said, what? What? How's my hair? Right. So she comes over, And this girl is beautiful. She is just super beautiful. And I'm just gonna play it cool, Camille. Don't my divorce is the paper still wet on the divorce. I'm like, let me just be cool. But she sits down and we begin to talk like we have been friends forever, like forever. And so we just talked. And what happened next is I wanted to see her again, so we decided that we would go on a date. Well, that date turned into about 3 or 4. I was only there for the weekend. It turned into about 3 or 4 dates total over that weekend. So much so that my aunt was calling me like, I thought you was coming to visit me. Where you at? We went to dinner, we went to the movies, we went to game rooms, we went to David Buster's, we went all weekend. And so we just really had a really, really wonderful time. And so time ended, and it said, okay, we went back home. My brother actually came with me. We went back to Cleveland, and I was good. I said, well, that was a fun weekend meeting. I met a beautiful person, one weekend only. Well, when I got back to Ohio, she was still on my mind. I kept thinking about her, I said, okay, well, let me call her. So I called her and we started to talk. Long story short, to that next part was, hey, let's start dating. Long distance? She asked. Yes. Well, let's do long distance. So now the good thing about the long distance relationship was I knew for me to make it, in order for it to work, we would have to see each other throughout the year and make sure that we communicate. And so that was on me. So I took that burden on purpose because number one, I needed to. So I gave her the plan. I gave her a whole plan. She's a very strong woman, so a plan wouldn't have worked. If I didn't have a plan, that wouldn't have worked for her. Okay. She's like, excuse me, what's the plan? All right. Well, in January I'm gonna come here. In March I'm gonna do this, and I kept my word. It helped me. It helped me stay accountable. So I kept my word. And so the next time I was supposed to see her from September, that was September, was going to be January. But we were talking around October. We're dating now. And she's telling me about her birthday. Her birthday comes up in November 1st. So I'm like, oh, okay, what you got planned for your birthday? Because I'm a big birthday guy. What you gonna do for your birthday? And she like, oh no, let's not talk about my birthday. No, 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 blah, blah, blah. And so she really got really upset about the birthday topic. I said, wow, whatever's happened in her past has really tainted her for birthdays. And she has a big heart. So my assumption was, she probably gave and people didn't consider her. So I decided that I would surprise her. I said, you know what, let's do this. But I didn't surprise her. I said, well, hey, is it okay with you if we do a virtual date on your birthday? She said, well, what's that? I didn't know either, Camille. I made it up. I was
Okay,
like,
see,
well,
y'all men better lean in right here for the people that don't think long distance relationship will work.
it works. You just have to
Lean
be
in right here and take a note. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, if you're gonna do long distance, be consistent and keep your word, right? It challenges you to do that. So I'm calling her. I said, well, listen, what if we do a virtual date? She said, well, what's that? I made it up. I said, well, what'll happen on your birthday is we'll both go to dinner. We'll both go to any place you want to go, long as it's the same place from Arizona and Ohio. When you go, I'll go the same time that you go, and we could go together. And I'll send you a picture. It'll be a virtual date. She's like, okay. It was creative. So it was getting close to her birthday, and I had everything in place. And then I had this crazy idea. Hey, Eric, what if you just showed up in person and dated her for the weekend? It was crazy, Camille, and prices were high then, but they're higher now. So it was, but I said, yeah, I'm gonna do it. So I just decided I was gonna do it. So I got me a plane ticket, a last minute plane ticket, and I flew to Arizona. Now, in her mind, she still thought we was gonna do the virtual date. So I arrived. The time difference was here. I arrived here at 7 a.m. Arizona time. I left Cleveland at like 4 in the morning. So nothing was open. The only thing I knew in Arizona, if y'all familiar with Arizona, is Tempe Marketplace. So that's the only place I knew because that's where most of our date was when we were hanging out months before. So I had I had an Uber driver or the cab driver, whoever, I forgot what I took, to the Tempe Lake. When I got there, everything was closed. I said, all right, I'm gonna just sit here and hang out. At 9 o'clock, things open up. At 9 o'clock, Barnes and Nobles open up. I'll go in Barnes and Nobles. 9 o'clock comes, I go in Barnes and Nobles, so I call her. Hey, how's it going? She having a rough morning. Yeah, they trying to charge me for something for my tags because she got to get her tags done. So she was in the mood. She like, honey, I know you want to do a virtual birthday, and I still want to, but can we do it later? And I'm thinking, oh, later might not work because I'm kind of out here, right? And so she don't know it, but I'm thinking, I said, hey, that's fine, but just do me a favor, go to Barnes and Noble and get your gift first, because I was supposed to give her this package. I was gonna mail it to her, but since I was coming, I brought it. I brought it with me. And I said, well, just go to Barnes and Noble and pick up your package. She like, so she perked up. What? I got a package? What? I got a package? Now, I didn't know, I didn't know how far her house was from Barnes and Noble. So I thought I had time. So I'm sitting around and I'm just looking at books. So she's on the phone with me and I hear her feet moving pretty quick. And I'm like, wait a minute, you sound like you're close. She's like, yeah, I'm almost there. I'm like, oh, so I jump up because I thought I had some time. It's like it felt like 10 minutes or something. And so I go over to the cafe lady. I say, hey, young lady, I want you to do me a favor. My girlfriend is coming in. I'm gonna have her come over here. Can you make sure she gets this package? And she said, oh, yeah, sure. They had her name on it. And I just said, just give it to her when she asks. So I'm on the phone with Veronica, and I'm like, hey, babe, go over to the cafe. I left a package for you there. Now, she's so excited that she got a package. She's not thinking, how did he get a package to Barnes& and Noble? And it wasn't stamped. It wasn't nothing. And so she goes over to the cafe. She grabs the package. And in the package is all the things that's going to help with our virtual date. So there's some games in there. As she solves the puzzles in the games, it's going to lead her to the next thing that we're supposed to do for like dinner, a movie. Like she's supposed to figure out the codes. All right, but one of the codes was my initials. It was my initials is egg, EGG, and so it was a picture of an egg. No relation to my head or anything like that, but it was just my initials. So she says, well, she was going through all the puzzles, she solved everything else, but when she got to the EGG, she was like, okay, this is your initials. What is this? I know we're going to a movie, I know we're going to dinner, I know we're going to this, we're going shopping, but what's the egg? I said, oh, well, that one, I can tell you that one. So now by this time, I had hid in the children's section in Barnes& and Noble. So I'm listening to all this play out. I said, oh, well, that one you'll find in the book. While I was sitting there, I saw this random cookbook. I said, go look for this such and such cookbook. So that was just to distract her. So she goes to look for it. I'm on the phone still. So I come from the children's area and I work my way over to her where she is. And she's looking and she's looking. At this point, she has gotten the lady, the sales lady there to help her. I'm looking for this cookbook. I'm looking for this cookbook. I need to find this last clue. She's all excited. So she's on the phone. She's like, honey, I can't find it. I can't find it. So I come around the corner with my Billy D or whoever's sexy these days. I come around with my Billy D. I'm like, can I help you with it? I put a little bass in my voice. Mind if I help you? She's like, oh my gosh, you made it. You here. And so it was really a beautiful experience. And I only stayed for one day, really 24 hours. And we did everything we said we was going to do for her birthday. And then the next morning I was back on a plane, back to Ohio. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And now we're married.
What an incredible story. Oh my goodness. I had to ask you that. I had to get more details on that. And I know our audience needed to hear that because now you're giving them life and letting men know and women that it is
Yeah, women
possible.
too.
It's
Yes,
possible to
absolutely,
meet
lady.
somebody and it's
Yeah.
long distance and it can
Yeah.
actually work.
And,
So
and
there's a
she's never
question
been
I asked.
married. I was
Oh,
gonna say
she's
she's
never
never
been
been
married.
married. So
Oh
she
wow.
says she tells us she had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to her prince. So ladies, be encouraged. I'm a prince. Woo, woo, I'm a prince. No, but I'm a king. But yeah, but
She says she kissed a lot of frogs. My goodness. But look, she got a king in the end, and that's all
in
that
the
matters. He's
end,
a
yeah,
mighty, mighty good guy, mighty
yes,
good man
he's
of
awesome.
God. So I want to ask you this last question. We are, I know the time goes so fast because it's
It does.
to say it's an opportunity of conversation, but it's a therapeutic session at the same
It is
time.
therapy. I didn't know that. I'm talking to Dr. Camille. You are a doctor too. I'm like, oh, you got me on the couch on the sofa. I didn't.
Well, I am a doctor now. I have
Yeah.
gotten my PhD now. And so praise God for that. But listen, I want to ask you this question. This is the question I ask everybody. And so the question is, what would you say when you think about all of the lessons you've learned in your lifetime? What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
That you matter. The longest lesson is that everything that you see and all the things that you're trying to do, and even with your good heart and your big heart and all of your dreams and all of those wonderful things that you want to do, don't forget that to put yourself on the list. It took me a long time to realize that I matter too, that I'm somebody. I wanted everybody to feel important and special because I didn't feel that when I was younger. But even in doing that, I left me off the list. And I would wake up and walk outside and expect people to notice me or acknowledge me. And when they didn't, I would be heartbroken. So what I've learned the hard way is, hey, learn to love you, really love you, learn to accept you for who you are, learn to appreciate you exactly where you are. God has a plan for you. It's going to be bigger than what you know, but you don't have to worry about all the details. He knows your flaws. He knows your idiosyncrasies. He knows your weaknesses, but embrace that and say, you know what? I'm okay. I love me. I'm okay. And I love me, and that took me so long and it took too long to really believe in me and to say that I matter too. And I do. I matter too. Yeah.
Well, that is powerful. Thank you so much. This has been a tremendous hour. My goodness, I can't believe the time is gone already. You already know what that means. I'm probably going to have you coming back very soon.
Please.
I'm already
Camille.
thinking about
Awesome.
another conversation, but this has been phenomenal. I want you all to do me a favor, go out there and follow Eric Graves, Minister Eric Graves, and this man is just a multi-talented in more ways than one, and certainly may even be able to support you, your family. But I got to
Yeah.
tell you, it's been my delight, it's been my privilege and my honor to have you
Same, Camille.
tonight. So we do look forward to all that God has for you. I just believe that God is just getting started with the greater things that are to come. And I know you have some plays that are forthcoming. So I'm here for all of it. So is our
Yes.
audience. So you keep us tuned in, keep us glued in with everything that is going on with you. And we will see you again very soon.
Thank you, Camille. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, you all heard it. There it is. Was it Eric? Mighty, mighty, mighty. I told you all. I told you to get ready. I told you to get ready. Season 2 is all about meaningful relationships, meaningful connections, navigating those waters so that we can find the greater in what is already in store for us. I'm a huge proponent that God is already prepared. He's always preparing us for what's already prepared for us. So let me take for just a quick moment. I want to share with you my wealth theory for today. It's very quick. There's only a couple things I'm thinking about. You all know he gave a lot of nuggets, but some of the ones that stand right at the top for me, pretty simple. And that is this. You have got to check in. If you've got a relationship, all types of relationships, this whole season, we're talking about getting our ships in order. You heard me, getting our ships in order. And so when we look at the meaningful connections and meaningful relationships, we need to check in with one another. We have to, as Eric said, he said, clock in, just like you do on your job. You're going to have to clock in to see exactly where you are in the relationship. And no matter where you are on your journey, it's never too late to find love. You are here to live, not to die. I know. A lot of people suggest that we are in the land of the dying, and we are until the Lord calls us home. But while we're here, we're going to live while we're here until God says, your time here is now up. And I want to just remind you that whatever you're experiencing in life, it has a name, and every name must bow to the name of Jesus. I'm a woman of faith, and I'm never going to be afraid to name him and call him out. It's my show, my platform, so that's what I'm going to do. But I do hope that you have been enriched. I hope that you've been encouraged. I hope that you have even been inspired tonight. And do me a favor. Please don't forget to go over to the Bullpen Show with me, the Redhead. You can find us. That Facebook group is now open. It's not private anymore. And it is where we're going to continue to drop all the details of whatever may be happening within the bullpen and our men on the move. Those men that I invite in, you'll be able to keep connected with them there with whatever their happenings are, their comings and their goings. But I do thank you. And I hope that if you have enjoyed tonight's show, just remember, all season long, we're talking about meaningful connections, meaningful relationships, and you do too matter. So I will see you all around very soon. Make sure that you take it all in. Don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone. Gobble it up and go ahead and share it so that as you receive it, those people that you share it with will be able to run with it. So you all go and have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the very next episode of The Bullpen. Have a good night.